All right, Brakatay Howell, Brakatay Howell Shy, Brakatay Howell, Brakatay Howell Shy, Brakatay Howell, Brakatay Howell Shy. Giving all praises to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai, which is the name of the Father, and the heavenly, and His heavenly Son. Yahweh being the name of the Father, which the world ignorantly calls God. Yahweh Shai being the name of the Son of God, which the world ignorantly calls Jesus. All right. And before I start this lesson, I'd like to give double honors to my apostles. I'd like to give double honors to my apostles and my elders of Great Millstone who rule well, and peace and salutations to every brother preaching the truth throughout the four corners. All right. Um, Without further ado, I'm going to start this lesson. This is the brother Shamaria of the Indiana camp coming at you with another lesson today. And today's topic is going to be about we are not African. All right. Because popular belief and what have we what we have been taught in our school systems in this wicked country, America, is that Africans sold Africans into slavery. When you watch Hollywood productions, they always depict the Egyptians being fair-skinned or leprous, which today is known as vitiligo, which is a turning of white, which the melanin in your skin is leaving you. Every time that Hollywood come out with a movie, Gods of Egypt, Moses in Egypt, or something like that, something deal with the story of Moses or the story of Egypt, they always depict the Egyptians as being fair-skinned or white men, or not being dark. All right, because the Egyptians, or today is known as Africans, so-called Africans, but biblically they're Hamites. All right, Hamites, Canaanites, and every descendant of Ham. All right, and we are descendants of Shem. That's why they enslaved us, because we weren't the same people. We were not Egyptians. We were Hebrews, and the Pharaoh seen us to multiply. He enslaved us. And that's my lesson. That's my lesson today. And without further ado, I'll get right into it. All right. And the first example I'm going to get is Exodus, because this white man, the ruler of this world, when he creates his movies and his productions, he depicts the Egyptians and the Hebrews as being fair-skinned. Why? To keep up the lie that's going around today, saying the Jewish people are the Khazars. Jewish people are Edomites. That's the lie that he's trying to keep up. So he has to push that lie through his production and his Hollywood, and his music, and then his media, basically. All right. First, the example I like to get is the distinction of the distinction between Israelites and Egyptians. All right. Now, this is when Pharaoh told all the midwives, the Hebrew midwives, to kill all the firstborn. All right, and they wouldn't do it because why? They hearkened unto the Lord their God. The fear of the Lord was on the women not to do that. So the woman had I'll get right into it. This is Exodus chapter 1 verse 15. All right. And the king of Egypt spake unto the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other was Puah. And he said, when ye do office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared God, and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said unto them, why have ye done this thing, and has saved the men children alive? And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for our women are lively, and are delivered ere the midwives come into them. All right, that was the point. Because the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women, for our women are lively. That's a distinction between the Egyptians and the Hebrews. All right. So why, when you go to school and you're taught about slavery, that Africans sold Africans into slavery? That's not true. The truth is that Egyptians sold Hebrews into slavery, because those settlers those Khazars came over to Africa and needed a need of slaves. So they talked to the Hamites and conspired against the Hebrews. All right, and they rounded up our people. You know, that was the point. But I'm gonna go on because therefore I'm going to verse 20. Therefore God dealt with the midwives and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty. All right, when you do good by the Lord's gonna do good by you. Normally, if you don't do something the king says, then he put you to death. But the Lord said he delighted in the women because they did according to what the Lord did, what the Lord wanted, you know. But my point being that there's a difference between Israelites and Egyptians. And I'm going to get that more vividly right now in the book of Exodus, chapter 11, verse 7. All right. And it says, Exodus chapter 11, verse 7 says, but against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue against man or beast, that ye may know how that the Lord doth put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. Now that's another distinction. That's distinction two. All right. Now I'm gonna go back up to the first part. It says, but against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue against man or beast. All right. What does that mean? It's basically saying that against any of the children of Israel, unless a dog move his tongue. So no one can talk shit about no one can say anything vulgar or vain about the children of Israel. Why? Because we got the Lord. Because the Lord put that difference between Israel and the Egyptians. When it says a dog, it's speaking about people. But who? The heathens. Anybody that's not an Israelite is speaking about heathen people, preferably in the situation. It applies for all heathens, but in this situation, it's talking about the Egyptians. All right, so now a dog move his tongue because why? The Lord's going to confound all of those gods of Egypt and every other god. All right, so they can't say anything about the Lord because the Lord confounded their God. And wiped the face of Egypt. Never rose again to be the most powerful nation on the face of the earth ever again after the Lord destroyed it. All right, that's distinction two. Because the Lord they'll put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. All right, and He did that difference through the plagues, because there was nothing that Pharaoh's magicians could do against the plagues of the Lord. All right, nothing. All right, even though he tried and tried and tried again, there was nothing that he could do. Now I'm going to get another example saying that we look identical to the so-called Africans, but we are not the Africans. All right, I just gave you two scriptures proving that we are not the Africans, that the Egyptians and the Hebrews are different people. All right, now uh, uh, um, this is a scripture saying that we look like them because I'm gonna just get it. All right, all right. Now it's evident that Moses was a Hebrew because the Lord used him to save the Hebrew Israelites to deliver them. Right. All right, now when he escaped from the land of Egypt because he feared Pharaoh, he ran into Media, and they mistook him for an Egyptian. Why? Because we look alike. We look identical. All right, I'm gonna get the scriptures. It's Exodus chapter 2, verse. I'm gonna start at 13. My point is 19, but I'm gonna just get the story, the gist of the story. Verse 13. And when he went out the second day, behold, two men of the Hebrews strove together, and he said unto him that did the wrong, wherefore smitest thou thine fellow? And he said, who made thee a prince or a judge over us? Intendest thou to kill me, as thou killest the Egyptian? And Moses feared and said, surely this is a known thing. Because Moses did it privately. He did it privately. He slayed that Egyptian privately, besides besides the Hebrew that witnessed him do it. So the Hebrew went back and told other Hebrews, niggas today. What niggas like to do? They like to gossip and be a man or woman. They like to tell stories. They like to release other niggas' business. That's same niggas back then is the same niggas today. All right. Now verse 15. Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses, but Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian. And he sat down by a well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. And the shepherds came and drove them away, but Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. And when they came to Raguel their father, he said, How is it that ye are come so soon today? And they said, this is my point, verse 19. And they said, An Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us, and watered the flock. All right. My point in that scripture being that they mistook Moses to be an Egyptian, and it's known when you read the scriptures that Moses is a Hebrew Israelite. All right, coming from the tribe of Levi. Okay, excuse me. All right, I just wanted to get that point because when Esau put out his productions and his Hollywood productions, um, you can't really, you can't really, you can't, you can't deny the fact that the Egyptians and the Hebrews are dark people because Esau pushed out through his media that they're white people through his movies, comics, cartoons, Gonna get another scripture. 13:5. Um, Deuteronomy 28:37. All right, now in the book of Deuteronomy, Moses told the children of Israel, "If you do these words I speak unto you, then you shall have life abundantly. But if you don't do the words that I speak unto you, which the Lord spake through Moses, if you don't do these words, then you shall have curses put upon you." And if you read the scriptures, we didn't do what the Lord told us to do. So therefore, we are under the curses today. And these are one of those curses, because our true identity is the Hebrew Israelites. But yet, this world tends to call us what? African Americans. African Americans meaning we are Africans, but we just migrated to America and adopted their customs. That's not true, because we're not African. You know. Um, Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 37. And thou shalt become a astonishment and a proverb and a byword among all the nations, whether the Lord lead thee. All right, whether the Lord, wherever, because in the book of Genesis, it said that Israel should be numbered as the sand of the sea. Israel shall be numbered as the star. Israel shall be numbered as the stars of heaven. Israel shall be numbered as the depths of the earth. That's a lot. And that's a lot of Israelites. The stars of heaven, the dust of the earth, the sand of the sea. No man can number the sand of the sea, nor the stars of heaven. All right, nor the dust of the earth. So he said, the scripture says, so as a man will be able to number thine seed, so as a man who will be able to number the dust of the earth, so as a man who will be able to number the children of thine seed. So the Israelites are innumerable. So we are everywhere. We are in every country on the face of this earth. There's an Israelite. All right, because the Lord says He's going to scatter us to all corners, which I'm going to get. But right now we're focusing on that byword. We are a byword because when you go to the word byword, it's a word that replaces what it's really supposed to be. All right. Now, for instance, Michael Jordan became a byword for the greatest. So instead of saying, "Damn, you playing a real good game today," you would say, "Damn, you Jordan today." Jordan is the byword for being very good, right? Now, we are bywords because they taunt us by saying black, African American, Negroes, niggers. All right, that's not our true identity. Our true identity is Hebrew Israelites. All right, everything else besides that is a lie. So they said, go back to the scripture, you should be an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all the nations, whether the Lord send thee. So upon all these other countries, these heathens and these other nations all got different name for a Hebrew Israelite. A nigger, goyim, dog, a Negro, African American, black. They got all kind of bywords for us. All right. Um, and vulgar insults. When you go into the word byword, one of the words in the Strong's means to taunt. And all those words are taunting us because we don't know who we are. So the elites knowing who we are give us these words to taunt us because we don't know. All right. Next scripture I'm going to get is Deuteronomy 32 and 26. 32 and 26. Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 26. And it said, I said, I would scatter them unto the corners, and I will make them remembrance. I'm going to start that over. Deuteronomy 32 and 26. I said, I would scatter them unto corners. I would make the remembrance of them to cease. I will make the remembrance of them to cease. All right. The remembrance of who? The Israelites. I will make the remembrance of the Israelites to cease. Before our apostles and our elders of GMS got out there on the highways and byways, and before they woke up, they had teachers above them that woke up. But before that, when we were slaves, there was no recollection of us being true Hebrew Israelites. There was none. All right. So that's what the Lord meant when He said, "I will cause the remembrance of them to cease from among men." I mean, of course, the elites knew, but they didn't publish it. We had to go out and we had to, men had to seek it, and the Spirit of the Lord had to go into their psyche and open it and reveal it to them. All right, but it was all appointed time. But for that time, it said, "I will scatter them unto the corners." The corners of who was the them first? I will scatter them is the Israelites. I will scatter them to the corners. What's the corners? The corners are the corners of the earth. All the other nations land, like Europe, France, America, Canada. We have Israelites everywhere because why? We're numbered as the sand of the sea, the dust of the earth, and the stars of heaven. And you can't count that. That's innumerable. So we're all throughout the face of the earth. All right. Now, another thing about contrary belief, Esau teaches, so-called white man teaches that the true Jews today, Jewish people, that they are of pale skin. All right. Now, I'm going to get about 2 or 3 scriptures to prove that wrong, and I'm going to close up. Okay. All right, because it's not true according to the Bible. According to the Bible, that's not true. All right. First scripture I'm going to get is Job chapter 30, verse 30. It was evident that Job was a man of the Lord, right? And it's evident that the Lord was dealing with Moses. And the Lord doesn't deal with any other nation besides the nation of Israel. So Job had to be an Israelite, according to Joel 2 and 27. The Lord is in the midst of Israel, and He is their God, and we are there, and we are His people. All right, and now according to Psalms 147 and 19, He only showed His statutes and His judgments unto Jacob. For we know His judgments in His word. He hasn't revealed Himself to the heathens. So Job is an Israelite. So this is Job chapter 30, verse 30. All right. It says, "My skin is black upon me." That's plain as day. There's no need to break that down. My skin is black upon me. It says, "And my bones are burned with heat." And, the word of the Lord is shut up in Him. So His bones burnt with heat, fervent heat. That's the point. But the point was the first line of that precept. My skin is black upon me. So if His skin is black upon Him, black being a byword for brown, maybe he was really dark. Like the Lord, Yahweh Shai, is really dark. He's not black because black will be the color of this laptop, or the black will be the cover of my Bible. Black will be color of these speakers right here. That's black. No Israelite has the complexion of being black. So it's like a byword for being very dark skinned. Like today, when you say, "Oh, I'm black," well, really you're saying I'm a dark person. So that's the first scripture. My bones are my skin is black upon me. All right, now I'm going to go to the Song of Solomon. Hopefully I can find it real quick. Song of Solomon, Song of Solomon, Song of Solomon. There we go. It's a real tiny book. You can pass by it really easily. All right, Songs of Solomon. Song of Solomon, Song of Solomon. 1 and 5. All right, Song of Solomon. 1 and 5. It says, I am black but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the certains of Solomon. Like I said, this is a precept for Job 30 and 30. I am black but comely. You know, being black being a byword for dark skin. All right. That's another scripture. Say the massage. Limitations 4 and 8. I know some limitations. I got 2 of them here. Limitations 4 and 8. I think so. Limitations 5 and 10, or 4 and 8. Come on, limitations. It's behind. Bear with me for 2 seconds. I'm sorry. I'm just looking for Lamentations. It's another book for me that's hard to find. I think it's before Isaiah. Oh no, this Ecclesiastes is before Isaiah. Luckily, I have my phone on me. I don't want to take too long and just find one scripture. I have my phone on me. I do. Yeah, man, because Esau pushes through his teachings that the true Jews are the so-called Edomites. I mean, are the so-called white people, and it's not true, because the true Jews are not the white people. The true Jews are the true Jews are not the so-called white people. The true Jews are today was called black, African Americans, the Native Americans, the Native Americans, the Dominicans, the Cubans. These are the true Jews. But that has been, lost on the face of the earth. I know it was at the Jeremiah. It's such a small book. It's only 5 chapters. You pass right by it. I prefer to get it in my scriptures, but what's the last chapter in Jeremiah? 50, 51? Thank you. All right, Lamentations 4 and 8. Go. Be bugging. I'll be bugging sometimes. All right, Lamentations 4 verse 8. I passed by this book like 3 times. 4 verse 8. Their visage is blacker than a coal. They are not known in the streets. Their skin cleave into their bones and is withered and has become like a stick. All right. This is when this is during the famine. All right. This is their visage is blacker than coal. Their visage is blacker than coal, like Job 30 and 30, Songs of Solomon 1 and 5. This is Lamentations 4 and 8. Their visage is blacker than coal. What's the visage? Is how they look, their appearance, their visage. Visage. Their appearance is blacker than coal. Now, being another byword, it's the third one. The third byword I got so far. Black being black. All right, and the last one I'm going to get is 2 depictions of Yahushua. Then I'll end it on that. I don't have to get all the precepts here. I just want to get the main, the focus point that the true Jews are not white, so-called white people, Edomites. They're not. It's a lie that's been taught through the society, and then people believe it. They cleave into it. Daniel chapter 10, verse 5. Daniel chapter 10 and 5. I lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with fine gold of Euphrates. All right, now this is Daniel's vision of Yahushua, and I'm going to link this up with Revelations. All right, it says his body also was like barley, and we all know that barley is brown as a wheat. And his face was that he didn't use black. He could have, but he was being more distinctive. It says, and his face is as the appearance of lightning. Why, we're going to get to that later. And his eyes were as lamps of fire. You know, we're going to get to that later too. And his arms and his feet, here's the point. His arms and his feet, which is the same color because it's one body, were a color to polished brass. All right. And his voice was the words like a voice of a multitude. So he had a very loud voice. All right. And it said his arms and his feet was like polished brass, and his face was the appearance, or is he said, in his body was like burley, you know, and burley is brown, right? His body was like burley, and his feet and his arms were like to polished brass. Now, Revelation is going to give a similar depiction. This is Revelation chapter 1, verse 14. And his head and his hairs were white like wool. All right. Now that goes back to Daniel 1:10 and 5, saying that the Lord, his face was an appearance of lightning. Like his face wasn't shining to the point where you couldn't see it. When he said the appearance of lightning, his beard and his head were white like wool. You know, like it iterates in Revelations 1 and 14. And his as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, was white as snow. Head and his hairs on his face was white as snow, and his eyes was like a flame of fire. Why? Because he drank a lot of wine, you know. And his feet like it's a fine brass, like polished brass, like in Daniel said. And if they had been as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice was the sound of many waters. Now that voice is the voice of multitudes. Why do they have the same depictions? Because it's the same person. All right. And his voice, it says, and his feet was like it's a fine brass, as it had been burned in a furnace. All right, now it's that polished brass that Daniel was going into, that polished brass. But now it's about burned brass. No, brass is already brown. You know, now burn it in the furnace and then polish it, and that's how the Lord looked. All right, and all that. That being said, give all praises to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Double honors to my apostles and my elders of great stone who rule well. And peace and salutations to the brothers on the four corners preaching the elect with truth and sincerity. Hope this video was edifying to the elect and the elect only. This is the brother Shamaria again. Until next time, Shalom.